You guys might have already seen the BBC Food egg fried rice video. We've also did one. We tried and tested the recipe. If you haven't seen that, check it out in our description below. And we saw the interview with Hersha and Nigel and BBC, and we know it was not our recipe, but it's all good. We're gonna show you what we would have done if we were to do that recipe.
And we're also gonna show you 4 other fried rice recipes that's gonna bring your fried rice game to the next level. For any kind of stir-fried or fried rice, and actually Chinese cooking in general, you need to have all your ingredients chopped up and ready, because when you're frying, there's no time to go back and forth. Everything needs to be there and it just goes boom, 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 one at a time. For the rice, we have both day-old rice and fresh rice. You can actually use both, and we're gonna show you how to use those in our recipes. I'm gonna show you one of my favorite gadgets. You can just wash the rice with the stick. And then you use this part to drain it out. No hands involved. I'll repeat this process for about 2-3 times. I've never really used the finger method because I learned how to make rice as a kid, so my fingers were shorter back then. I guess that makes me a bad Asian. I'm always used the lines of the pot as a guide, and it really depends on what type of rice you're using. Today I'm using jasmine rice, so I know that 4 cups of jasmine rice goes to the 4th line here. And since I'm making fried rice today, I filled up a little less than usual, so it's drier. Since we're using fresh rice, I'm going to put it on the pan so it can dry out and cool down, because for fried rice, you want to have individual grains. This is the infamous BBC Food egg fried rice. We used the ingredients except for the ginger and added a couple of little things, but we changed a couple of steps and it makes a massive difference.
So we have 2 eggs here. I'm just gonna add a splash of water. I like doing this because it just makes my eggs a little fluffier. You don't have to. I didn't add any salt or anything, but I will add salt when I cook them. If you add salt now, I find that it gets a little watery and it tries to expel water, but I will add just a touch of sesame oil. We're gonna cook all of our fried rice in a wok today. The wok, if you heat it up hard enough, it's gonna be non-stick. Okay. I like to flavor everything as I go, so I'm gonna add just a little salt in there. We wanna get this to about 60% cooked. Once it's 60% cooked, we're good enough. Take this out. Add a little oil back in. We added our garlic, our onions, and let that become fragrant. Then we added our red pepper, stir fried it really quickly. And back to that we added the rice. In this one we use day-old rice. As we said, you don't have to do that. You don't want to stab the rice like this, because if you stab it, you break the rice and then you look like you bought cheap rice. You want to just break it up like this and toss it over. You don't want the stuff underneath to burn. When the rice starts jumping in the wok, you'll see that's when it's close to being done. Eggs go back in, break that up a bit. We added the peas in. I go in with a little bit of salt.
A lot of you suggested to use MSG, but instead of that, we used fish sauce, and that's our secret ingredient to add a little bit more savoriness and a little bit more umami.
And then I added soy sauce for some color, sesame oil. I like to add in the scallion right at the end, right before I turn off the flame so it doesn't overcook. And we're ready to go. Let's get this out. No stuck rice this time.
You can see that each grain separates.
You get the heat from the wok this time. The rice is drier. You can still taste all the vegetables. Not bad.
For this recipe, if you do choose to use the pineapple for the bowl, cut it in half lengthwise, then you use a knife to cut little cubes throughout. You use a spoon to spoon it out. You can use the spooned out pineapples to go into your fried rice, but make sure you cut them a little bit smaller because those cubes are pretty large when we scoop it out.
The first thing we did was marinate our chicken. We marinated in soy sauce, sesame oil, and covered it in cornstarch and mixed it all together. And then we set that aside until we're ready to use it.
And like the previous recipe, we cooked the eggs separately again.
For the chicken, you get your wok or pan really hot. You lay them all down in one layer, then don't touch it. You let it brown, and you check it periodically. Once it's golden brown on one side, you flip it over and then you do the other side. Once that side is done, then you can give it a little mix, separate all of them and make sure it's brown all over. Once it's fully cooked, you take it out of the pan and you set that aside. We got our garlic fragrant, and then we add our cashews to bring that nice and fragrant. And once that's done, then we added the rice. For this one, we also used day-old rice, so we didn't dry it out as much as we were cooking it. This is curry powder. That's the taste you taste when you have pineapple fried rice. Next, we're gonna go back in with the chicken and eggs. Okay. Get those pineapples and peas in. We're gonna season with a little bit of salt, a little bit of fish sauce now. This brings a little saltiness and savoriness and umami. A little soy sauce. And the final thing we're gonna put in is scallions.
Wow, this one is impressive looking.
Yeah, and you don't have to do this, you can just plate it, but I felt like going the extra mile for you guys, so this is how you do it.
Extra.
All right, it's gonna be a big bite. I love all the different textures in here, right? You have like the crispiness from the chicken, you have the crunchiness from the cashews, you have the sweetness from the pineapples. Like, it's just such a good flavor throughout.
And good balance.
Yeah.
That little kick of curry. This one is kimchi and spam fried rice. I feel like this is a very homey style dish. First you fry the spam until it's nice and crispy. Then you put in the garlic and onion. When that's fragrant, put in the kimchi.
You stir fry all that together, and once that's ready, you add in the rice. So in this one, we used today's rice. It was not as dry. It was still a little wet, but I think that works perfectly for this dish. It's nice and saucy, so it's okay that you get like clumpy and it's a little more wet. Not like gloopy, just so it's a little more stuck together. If you want it more dry, it's fine. You push it down and you let that dry in the pan and you let it form that crust, and then you flip it and then you press it down again, and that's how you dry the rice.
We added in the gochujang and went a little heavier on the sesame oil because in Korean food, that flavor is more prominent.
Once you mix that all together, turn off your heat, take it off, and then clean out your wok, and now you can fry an egg. So we went with the sunny side up.
And that yolk is perfect to balance out that spiciness of the kimchi and the gochujang.
Love the taste of the kimchi, it really comes through. Like, you bite it and you get a nice little crunch. You're like, what's this? Tangy, sour, sweet. It has all the flavors and it really elevates the dish to the next level.
Spam and fried rice is really a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
I call this one the golden silver fried rice because you separate out the eggs.
Okay, we're not there yet though. So to start this dish, you're gonna have your Chinese sausage with a little bit of oil. You don't want so much oil because Chinese sausage has a lot of oil by itself. Start on low heat, but you turn it up until like a medium. Okay, you don't want it to burn, just watch it. As soon as it's ready and has a little bit of crust, is soft and to your liking, then you add in the kailan. You stir fry that together until kailan is just underdone, and then you take it off.
With the prawns, we marinated in white pepper, salt, and a little bit of sesame oil.
And go easy on the salt because prawns are already salty. You just want it a little bit to bring out some of the flavor. Prawns, you want it to cook high heat. You put it on, don't touch it. As soon as it turns color, flip it over. And when it's all the way cooked through, you take it off immediately. The next step is the eggs, the egg white. We beat the egg whites. For this one, I did add salt, no extra water. Put it into the wok at about a medium heat. We are gonna stir these. Once it's about 50% cooked, we add in the rice. We mix that all together, and this one we use today's rice. We use the back of the spatula to spread it out and break up all the clumps. That also helps it to break apart and dry out. So once that rice is ready to go, add our stuff back in, our prawns, our Chinese sausage, and our kailan.
We use salt, fish sauce, sesame oil, and soy sauce.
Everything mixed together. Just before finishing, add in your scallions for some flavor. Mix it all together, turn off the heat, and plate.
With the yolk left over, you beat that up, add a little bit of salt, then in a medium heat wok, we poured it in. And you just keep stirring and stirring and stirring it until it's all scrambled up together. And you do that for about 1 minute or 2 minutes until it's starting to turn dry. Now you plate it and you just sprinkle some of this beautiful golden egg yolk on top. So that's why this is called this gold and silver fried rice.
Just make that up?
No, in Chinese they call it gold and silver fried rice.
Okay.
This one is really pretty. I love all the colors.
It's a little special because we separate out everything, right? Try just a little bit of egg white and egg yellow. That's a very interesting texture. If you really want to elevate this dish, instead of using a regular egg yolk, I would use a salted egg yolk.
Yeah.
I think that would bring it to the next level. Like that would be...
The prawns, perfectly cooked. You really taste the wok flavor in this one.
Yeah.
Each individual grain of rice is coated in flavor. There's so much flavor in this. There's so much depth.
I just like it because there's Chinese sausage.
This is the Japanese eel fried rice.
It looks really fancy, it tastes really fancy, but it's quite simple actually.
Yeah.
There's not too much to it.
For the eel, we just bought the pre-packaged one. It's actually already fully cooked. So this is actually so simple.
We're gonna add the onion, stir it until it becomes fragrant, and then we're gonna add in the corn and just let that go for a couple of seconds.
And like the previous recipe, we cooked the eggs at about 60%. Now we add in the rice. This is also the fresh rice that we made today. And like before, we pressed it down with the spatula so it can dry out a little bit more.
And so the one thing with this recipe is that you don't actually need to have dry rice. Traditionally, it's actually made with short grain rice, which is a lot stickier, it's a lot wetter.
And the flavoring for this is 1 tablespoon of unagi sauce and 1 teaspoon of Japanese soy sauce.
Add your eel in. You're gonna wanna be careful here because it's a delicate fish, right? It's still fish, it's already cooked. It's gonna fall apart if you just completely stir it and you keep going at it. And you want to actually taste it. You paid good money for it. So we fold it in, gently fold it in. You want to still get pieces of it. So once that's done, we can add our scallions in, toss that a little bit and take it off the heat.
Just for a little extra flavor and a little extra umami, we added a little bit more seaweed as well. We added a little bit of bonito flakes, dry bonito flakes. I love watching it dance, dance, dance. And we left 2 big pieces of unagi on top, and that is just so decadent.
I think this one is the winner for me. You really get sweet and salty, like the corn, the unagi sauce, the soy sauce, the seaweed, it all just comes together so nicely.
If you like this video, check out our top 5 tips to make the perfect steamed eggs. The texture is so good as well because the unagi is a little soft, but the rice has its own individual grains. I can't pick one. They're all very good.
Let us know in the comment section below which one you want to try and which one's your favorite. You can also rip us apart and let us know what we did wrong.